Warm hello everyone, my name is Aga and I am a founder of holistic business called Balance Lab. I am trained hypnotherapist and hypnosis teacher. I also am very well versed in energy therapy, Reiki, somatic work, neurolinguistic programming and more. All these tools combined provide not only relief for people who have experienced a lot of different kinds of trauma, but also lay foundation for transformative changes. And I wanted to talk today about how actually trauma is released from the body. As you probably know, there are many different systems in the body that communicate automatically. They are built into your structure to help you survive a difficult event, to help you move forward, to keep you safe, to make sure that you can react appropriately in dangerous situations. So we have a lot of systems in place that function really brilliantly if we need them sporadically. However, if we're exposed to a lot of adverse situations and specifically prolonged trauma, could be physical, emotional, usually it's combined, sometimes it's also sexual. These systems are not able to develop properly, especially if the person has experienced these adverse events in childhood. Because in childhood we are very malleable, we are coding in information, and just like with computer programming, we are loading up data first that later all these different systems are going to automate. Just so you don't have to think about your reaction, the various technology that we have inside is working for us in order to automate, to streamline different simple things that we take for granted, like breathing, like walking. Once you learn something at early age, it gets automated, and later on in life as well, there is something what's called brain neuroplasticity. So there are many different things that we can do in order to break the cycle of post-traumatic stress disorder, complex PTSD, whatever you are harboring, and it's causing those cognitive, emotional, mental dysfunctions. There is a way to release the grip that these events have on your life. And I wanted to share a story, and I have many of those stories, but here's one example. I had a client not too long ago who came to me because she said she needs some help with alcohol addiction. She's 63, a nurse, married. She said that her husband has some dementia and she's coping with the home situation using alcohol. Typically, knowing that my clients have a lot of background stories and early childhood stories, I know that this is a sort of a surface layer information that they're giving me, but there is a lot more that we're going to talk about. And because I've worked in this field for close to 15 years now, and I have done thousands of sessions, first energy sessions and then much more complex therapy involving regression, childhood regression, sometimes past life regression. And for years now, I've been using somatic work, which is crucial in actually freeing the energy, the emotions that are trapped in the body connected to those traumatic events. And it's not actually typically traumatic event, but what happens afterwards to your physiology and how that memory is imprinted into the body and into your psychosomatic structure that has these impacts. So this woman comes to me, and I start with gentle relaxation. She goes deeply into trance right away. She couldn't lift her arm if I had $100 or thousands of dollars 5 meters away from her. She wouldn't be able to get out of bed and pick it up. So it's easy for me to hypnotize people. Maybe even now that you're listening to me, you might feel like you're going into this pleasant trance, even though I'm talking about something that is typically challenging for a lot of people. But it's just the fact that I've been doing this work for many years and meditating and grounding, and I have a certain energy about me that's just very calming and helps people open up because they feel safe. They feel like whatever happens, it's going to have a really positive outcome. And because they come open and they are able to follow instructions, which are simple, but also there is a level of unity in a session, meaning that they're allowing themselves to be hypnotized. They allow me to hypnotize them. So obviously I have a control over making some suggestions, and they make those suggestions real within themselves. They hear the voice, they understand the suggestions, they act on it internally, right? Like this is what happens in any communication. When we're open, there is an exchange. And of course, intentions are always the highest good of the client. So this woman goes into trance and she ends up in her childhood. And she was sexually assaulted for a while, several months. When she was about 7 years old, a neighbor, teenager, had sexual encounters with her. So this is just one piece of information that I want to share with you, because typically, again, if there is a right reaction from parents or caregivers, and the child that is being mistreated is soothed, there is therapy provided, there is validation, there is no toxic shaming, there is appropriate healthy behavior, then that kind of event will not have such repercussions on this young person as if this event was regarded as not important, and if there are some negative consequences to the child, then we can heal this wound with the emotional support and with therapy relatively quickly. However, if that child is not with their parents, like in the case of this person, her mom left her and her sister with her aunts that were primary caregivers for a while. So you have right away an issue of abandonment right there, and children internalize those signals, the communication. Maybe there's something wrong with me because my parent is not there with me. Not only that, after this event, this young girl, she wanted to participate in Holy Communion. She was brought up in Catholic religion. And her mom came back to the picture, and her mom decided that she's not pure or innocent anymore, so she's not going to participate in the Holy Communion. Furthermore, she switched religion to Jehovah's Witness. This woman, my client, never processed this event and all the subsequent perceptions that she developed about herself. Imagine yourself in her situation. For whatever reason, you are without your mother for a time being. You're with your aunts that do their best to take care of you. You are an easy prey to some teenager next door, probably coming from abusive family, who is noticing this vulnerable girl that doesn't have guidance, that doesn't have protection, and takes advantage of her several times. You as a child, maybe you were in this situation, feel confused, you feel ashamed, you were never taught how to ask for help, that you even can ask for help. There is no context from which you can draw conclusions and act. So until they were discovered, she didn't say anything to a person, from her family. So that already tells you that this person, this little girl, she felt confused. She didn't know whom to trust. And then you have another aspect, which is a complete denial of her mother that this is an important issue to address. Refusing to talk about it, even if this would be with a therapist, with someone who can help this girl process the emotions and move on. Instead, switching to a different community, religious community. And then this woman, my client at age 63, said that they never really talked about it. This topic was taboo, and her mom passed away. And the only reason this client came to me is because her stepson was in Bali, and he called her, and he said that he went to a sound healing bath and he had an amazing experience in Bali. And she felt internally somehow prompted to do her own search. She found me on Yelp. I have tons of reviews, and she made an appointment. So how do we address this? We've done a lot of somatic processing in this session and made sure that the trauma that was in the body in form of stuck energy and emotions was extrapolated and processed. So in somatic work, once we identify where the trauma is located physiologically, physically, beforehand we go to an actual situation, an event, we take a snapshot. There are lots of steps, there's lots of wonderful things we can do in hypnosis. Hypnosis is sort of just like this inner state that's kind of like I'm talking to. It's just this beautiful softness when the mind is cognitively, flexible, and you feel really relaxed at the same time. So going into those realms of the past is easy because there's no resistance. So once we identify a situation, there's always going to be an emotional component that's connected to the body. So I help clients extrapolate that energy, pull it out of the body, and then we look at it as if it was like a picture, like this picture behind, and we look at the colors, we look at the textures. Sometimes the image is huge, like a building, or way bigger, the feeling that the image is representing. And there are colors, sometimes the image is moving. And then we do several things in order to drain that emotional intensity. Several things we can do, including some EMDR elements, and using different memories. That's what I most often do, in order to empower the present moment person, in that case 63-year-old woman, in order to enter those uncomfortable scenes and rescue the child from that original traumatic event. So this is a multi-step process. When you as a therapist know what you're doing, you can help client drain lots of these emotions within 90 minutes. A lot can happen. And what's beautiful about that, typically you don't need a lot of sessions, because once you free this energy, once you start becoming a nurturing parent to that inner child, once you know how to pull energy from other memories that are very pleasant, which we do before we regress to the problematic event. So there is, like I said, there is a certain sequence that we need to follow. Then the person realizes that there are different states internally that are interesting and good and powerful, and we can pull that energy also from the body and from our memories in order to balance out energies and memories and emotions that are problematic. So once we realize that we are actually very malleable in how we navigate these different screens, these different movies from our lives, we can process and just with relatively simple effort, easy to follow and consistent effort, we can let go of the impact that these events had on our lives and our psyche. The issue is that often people wait until their parents pass away, and the burden of like keeping this secret kind of drops naturally. And I've had that happen with several people who told me, I mean, I'm talking about hundreds of people who told me about sexual trauma, and I was the first person that they revealed this information to. So imagine how this impacts your life. A lot of those events are suppressed, and a lot of those events are just not single event. There is a context to it, the atmosphere at home, what happens later, what is the general family dynamic. Typically there is a lot of dysfunctionality with what functions were being assigned as children. There is no autonomy, there is no space for authenticity, there is no space for learning your authentic skills, developing your authentic skills, and really expressing yourself authentically. You are treated like an extension of this family tree, and the family assigns certain functions. And if you are sexually assaulted, then it means that unconsciously you're rejected. And if you're rejected, then you're going to be scapegoated, and there's going to be a lot of shame, toxic shame, blaming, and just using you as this kind of bucket where dirty emotions can be disposed to by other family members, but not you. So that happens when there is lack of conscious awareness in a family, when there's lots of abuse. Obviously, this is something multi-generational typically, and it's just a continuation of the cycle. So my message is to really remind you, if you're listening to this, not to wait until your parent passes away, until your spouse passes away, until somebody else tells you that it's okay to seek help, that there is a different way of thinking, living, perceiving yourself, making decisions. You know, there's this saying, when you're not expressing your emotions, you're eating your emotions, right? Lots of people that I see have different coping mechanisms. So could be food, could be alcohol, many different things that we use to regulate emotions. Obviously, we know it doesn't work long term. But I would love to see more people being okay with seeking help and recalling the events of their past authentically, not euphorically or not in sort of like idealistic way, but really authentically, because we need to assess first the situation and how that child typically was mistreated and how their emotions were not validated, how they couldn't exercise any sense of control and get help, how all of this was present. And then the healing can happen. But if you do not speak up, if you do not take a step back and look at your own patterns, if you cannot distance yourself a little bit from living in that internal movie and validating others and playing a role assigned to you by others, and just really feeling like you are an actor in this movie, but you don't create your own dialogues, then most of your life is just being lived unconsciously. So hopefully this message will bring you some awareness in terms of your decisive power. What trauma does, it robs people of knowing that they can initiate their own decisions, that they don't need to take care of everyone in their family emotionally. That's not their duty. And then their emotional balance comes last. Everybody should be more or less responsible for their emotional states. We can talk about different emotions, but without shifting the blame, owning where we are. We're going through all kinds of emotions and feelings and states. This is part of being human being. But we're not here to regulate other people so that they feel okay. And there's this still huge misunderstanding about what emotions should be used for. So if you are someone who is harboring a secret like that and you never shared it, hopefully this message will find you and you will be able to understand that there is help. There's another way of relating to the self and the external world, and how you relate to yourself is the most important thing. And there are really skilled practitioners like myself and others who can very gently, powerfully, and safely help you regain connection to those aspects of yourself, the authentic ones that you couldn't first even realize or notice, because you probably have abandoned them long time ago. So you don't even know that there's this huge possibility right there, this space that's just like right outside of your perceptual peripheries, but it's there. And when you integrate those aspects, you're going to bring forth such potentiality and live from a very different space. Of course, again, this requires time, dedication, but very quickly you can learn how to navigate the inner terrain. The most important thing is to make that choice that I'm going to shift my focus from the outside realm and the expectations that other people have towards me, that they have assigned to me, but I have never signed up for that job, if you will, to what is it that I truly want? What is it that I truly need? It doesn't mean that I'm abandoning them. I'm creating space for my own inner exploration. I'm deciding that this is a very vital part of why I'm here on earth. Not the monetary success, not the perfect relationship, not a perfect job or lots of travels, but knowing who I truly am. This is why we're here on this earth. So I hope that this message resonates. Let me know. I would love to hear from you, and whatever other topics you'd like to learn more about in the context of healing, consciousness, self-awareness, spiritual journey, I'm happy to address. Thank you for your time. Have a wonderful day. Namaste.